Hi everyone, my name is Ambassador Adeniyi Ekine, and today I am at the campaign office of Dr. Rachel Jenkins, who is the voice, an independent voice for Werribee in this 2018 election in Victoria State. Now a lot of people are in there listening to what Dr. Rachel has got to say today. She's also interacting with them to know what their opinion is. And she's going to be sharing her campaign program with the people here. And it's a very interactive session with question and answer, and also a lot to eat. For you to be part of Dr. Rachel's campaign group, I am a volunteer. I'm a fully supporter of Dr. Rachel Collins. For you to be part, just log on onto the website and contact Dr. Rachel Collins Jenkins. Stay tuned and don't blink your eyes.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming. This has been a really great drop-in, and I really appreciate you giving up your Friday afternoon and evening to come and listen to a politician and a candidate for the next election. It's been a really exciting time, actually, competing in the lower house seat of Werribee. Been really enjoying it. I spent 4 years in the upper house, as most of you know, and I felt that I've achieved quite a lot in the upper house. It's a house of review, so we do a lot of legislative work. I've been able to achieve some outcomes for schools like Heathdale Christian College, where we were able to defeat the equal opportunity legislation that the government brought out that would have gutted the schools. That was won by, they lost it by one vote, which was a victory for us. We also were able to defeat the gender birth certificates bill by one vote. So I think that shows you how important it is to have one vote in Parliament. It makes a huge difference. And now what I'm seeking to do is to get into the lower house where the government is formed. So I've really enjoyed the upper house, as I said, but I think it's time to get into the lower house and to directly influence who is forming government. This next election could be very close, and I personally do not want to see an ALP Greens coalition in our lower house. That is something that I'm absolutely opposed to, and I think that more independent voices, more conservative independent voices who are connected to their community need to be elected. What I'm seeking to do in representing Werribee is to directly connect the community concerns with our government. And it's something we've seen. There's only been one independent in this last term, Susanna Sheed in Shepparton. She took a safe seat off a major party, which is exactly what I'm seeking to do here. It is possible, and the outcomes she's achieved for her community have been phenomenal, and I think we can do the same. I know we can do the same right here in Werribee, because people are wanting a change. They're sick of safe seats, because it doesn't matter who gets into Parliament next time. If this is a safe seat, we still will not get our infrastructure. We still will not get our paediatric ward in our hospital. We still will not have enough schools. Compared to the east, we do not have enough schools. We don't have enough hospital beds. We don't get the same. We simply don't get a fair share. And that's what we're seeking to get here in Werribee. We have issues with our infrastructure. That's something that people bring up with me all the time. I've been consulting with civil engineers around the level crossings, for example. Now the ALP have now committed to taking out the Hoppers Crossing one, which is extremely dangerous. But they haven't committed to fixing our roads. And they haven't committed to exactly when the level crossings will be removed. And they haven't committed to how many car parks we'll get. And that's been a huge issue for this community. And I think it's time, well it is, it's time for us to be connected more closely to our government. Public transport is another area that people talk to me about a lot here, that we just don't have enough, or that the buses don't connect well, and that again is something around a safe seat. If you're in a safe seat, you get listened to less. Simple as that. healthcare is an area of absolute passion for me. So my background is in welfare. So I spent 2 decades in the welfare sector before what I describe as my midlife crisis of coming into Parliament. I've absolutely enjoyed Parliament, and it's not actually that far away from the welfare sector, let me assure you. My training in disability and mental illness has put me in very good stead in Parliament, to be honest. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So one of the things that we really struggle with here is palliative care. It's patchy. Last year we passed euthanasia laws in our Parliament by 2 votes. I am very disappointed that we passed those laws. And a lot of people in our community, when I speak to them, and they say, well, we respect our elders, and I tell them about the laws, they're horrified at what happened, because a lot of people aren't connected enough to understand what's actually happened. And that's something I'd actually be seeking to revoke, by the way. And that is something that can be revoked before it comes into effect within the first 6 months of Parliament. A little bit off track. But our palliative care services are just too patchy. So people are complaining about dying in pain. I understand that. It's because we don't have palliative care services to assist them. And that is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm also passionate about the other end of the life spectrum, the perinatal care period. We are doing a disservice to mothers and to fathers. I'm passionate about the role of motherhood. We devalue mothers in our community, and I think that's really sad. And we don't do enough in our community. We have too many gaps. I've already mentioned the paediatric ward that we don't have. And I have a lot of stories of people saying even simple things like, my baby has this terrible reflux problem and they send me into the city. That's really difficult for families when they've got other children and they're trying to juggle. That's really not fair. We are not a corridor. And I've corrected even councillors on this when they've spoken to me in my office, and they talk about Werribee being a corridor between Geelong and Melbourne. We're not a corridor. We're a community in our own right. We have a right to be a community. We have a right to be proud of our community. And I think it's time we stopped letting people tell us that the West is second best, because it isn't, and that Werribee doesn't deserve it because we're just a growth corridor. We're not just a growth corridor. We deserve just as many services as they have in Geelong. And if you compare, I was actually given a table recently, you compare the number of hospital beds per population, the number of school placements per population they have in Geelong to Werribee, it's pretty eye-opening. We're not doing well, and that's something that I really think that I will be, and I can successfully advocate for in the lower house, where government is formed. I think it's really important to talk about the law and order issues that we have. I've spoken to a lot of community groups. I want to acknowledge Culture Hive. I went to Culture Hive recently and had a conversation there. Culture Hive facilitates community conversations amongst different groups. And I think that's a really important, because we're such a diverse community here in Werribee, which is awesome, really awesome. And we need to facilitate more conversations between our diverse communities and also with our youth. We are not engaging our youth. So yes, we have some huge problems with our youth, huge law and order problems, and part of that is we are not engaging them in meaningful activity, and we're not telling them our expectations. So I actually had a couple of community leaders come and see me and say, if you get in, will you sit down and tell our youth what you expect from this? And yes, I'll admit this is a Sudanese community came and said this to me. I said, absolutely. I'd be very happy to go and say this is our expectations as a community. This is what the government expects. This is what our community expects. I would absolutely embrace being able to do that. That is not something you'll find a major party willing to do. And that's the unique role that an independent, I believe, can play. So I guess that's my very brief pitch off the top of my head, and that's some of the things that in conversations I've been having over the last few weeks, people have been saying are really dear to them. Very briefly, I think most of you do know about me, but if you want to ask any questions, you've also got my website to access, rachelmp.com.au. I'm seeking to be re-elected simply because I think we can make a huge difference not just for Victoria, not just for the West in general, but for Werribee. We have so many issues here, and I've heard so much discontentment, so much. The Liberal Party still haven't really announced their candidate for this area, and yet so many people are disillusioned with the ALP. And I understand that disillusionment. I've had that myself and chosen not to join a major party. This is where we're at. I think it's time for the independent voice for Werribee to be heard, and I would be very proud to be that independent voice. So thank you. Safe schools. I'm passionately against the unsafe Safe Schools program. And I just don't believe that we should be teaching gender theory to our children. Safe schools is something that's being taught and is mandatory now in all high schools, in state high schools, including special needs schools. Yeah, I'm actually horrified at that. I'm horrified at the whole program, but I'm horrified at that. I'm just going to give you a couple of instances. I've had families come to see me where they're telling me that they're going to have their children taken off them because they're not agreeing with the transgender teachings that are happening in school. Their children they've told their school that they've disagreed and they've been dobbed in to our social services. That's where we're going here in Victoria. That's shocking. Parents need to be allowed to be parents. Yes. I was able to stop in this term of government safe schools programs being linked to funding in independent schools, Christian schools and Catholic schools. That was a commitment I had for this term only. That expires on the 24th of November. If I'm not back in Parliament, it'll be a free-for-all. Funding will be tied. They will tie funding for Christian schools like Heathdale. For Catholic schools in our area, we have about six Catholic schools in Werribee alone, and independent schools as well. Their funding will be tied to teaching gender theory. And we're already seeing that in before and after school programs at our schools, which is just disgusting. But there is something worse than safe schools. Respectful relationships. It's a program being taught to our primary school. It is the same gender theory, but it's being taught to as young as kindergarten. There is no other politician I've heard that has spoken out against respectful relationships. There is no other politician I've heard that has made a commitment to getting rid of respectful relationships. And I think that's a program that is absolutely abhorrent to me and to many parents. So I'm the first MP in Australia to have debated the Safe Schools and Respectful Relationships programs and the rights of parents to make their own decisions for their own children in a parliament. That was defeated by one vote. So again, this is the power of one vote. So we really need to be aware of it. I'm really grateful that you asked that question because this is affecting future generations. There's a lot of complaints around the political correctness, and I think we just need to keep that well away from our children. Because hands off our children. I'm concerned. Yep, I'm concerned. I've got a 21-year-old, or almost 21. He's turned 21 during the campaign. So I'm concerned about my grandchildren, to be honest. So I'm very fortunate to not be having my kids in school at the moment, I think, and I think a lot of people are thinking like that. One of my areas is disability. Children with disabilities are the most bullied population in our schools, and that can be up to 20% of our children. I think we do need an anti-bullying program which will solve all of those issues and take care of our children. We absolutely need to be doing that. I'm not denying that, but I do not believe that Safe Schools will do that. I do believe that Safe Schools is damaging our children. I've had parents in my office telling me about the way their children have changed through this program. They've gone from happy, children content with who they are to questioning who they are and questioning their sexuality. And let's just be honest, when you're a preteen and a teenager, these things are really hard. And we do not need our schools confusing our children. Very briefly, so train station pitch, for example, I'm telling people vote independent. It's the only way that we're going to have our voices heard here in Werribee. And our voices include the voices of parents, the voices of mothers and fathers who are being ignored in our community, and the voices of our future generations. Also the voices of our elderly. The elderly are very much being abused and neglected at the moment under any government, to be honest. And that's my pitch.
I've got friends with kids with disability. The NIDS, they're actually doing something with trying to take it off the parents with kids with disability.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned, having worked in the sector, but I'm concerned with my friends who've got these kids with issues, quite bad issues actually, who need, I don't care how much money people earn, that they're entitled with the NDIS, and I'd like that to be looked into.
Sure. I'd love to address the NDIS question actually, because disability is my area too.
I know.
But we've worked in the same kind of sector, haven't we, Barb? So the NDIS is a federal body, but I've had a lot of complaints coming into my office, and I understand that because the gaps need to be filled by the state. The state was responsible for disability, and we will continue to be responsible for disability until all of those gaps are filled. I was one of the academic voices who spoke against the NDIS when it was first proposed because it was rushed. Anything that we put in Canberra as a bureaucracy we have to question, I think. And it was taking healthcare and welfare off the states. And I think the more connected to the community we are in making these kinds of decisions. For disability, for example, same goes for childcare and education, the better off we'll be. NDIS is going to become a huge problem in the future. The mantra was no one will be worse off, but we're finding a lot of children are worse off, particularly children that have gotten the early intervention.
Saying, we're going to take it off you.
Yes.
And going through the Centrelink stuff and other things, and I think that's a disgrace.
It is.
Because it's been proven.
Absolutely it is.
Is this the path of Marxism, is it?
Look, I think it's part of it. Why not? Let's call it as it is.
Marxism to the very, very left and all these greenies and
it's all about centralising everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Once we centralise everything, that's your point. It's a problem.
We just don't have say.
Yes.
Because we would be controlled and, we'll be told what to do. And if people don't raise up and use their voices, it's going to be a really big deal. It already is a big deal. We've got rorting of the system. The police won't arrest the Labor people. There's all this going on. And if we don't raise up, especially those that stand for God and in these areas, and prayer and all these things, then it's going to take us over. And I've been here long enough to know what's been going on.
Sure.
And it really does disturb me. And it doesn't rely on me alone or you. It relies on all of us. So we need to make a stand. We really do. And I think that if we can get someone like you in as an independent, then we have to stand.
Halfway there. I quite like Barb's pitch, by the way, if anyone was listening. It's very well put.
Thank you. I also want to bring up about the police station. The police is shocking. This whole thing. I've seen them running around the last few days, but I want the police at the school crossings where I'm a lollipop. I want to see them and over in Dunnings Road, they're pulling them up, the police. They've been there when I've been there and breathalyzing them and all that. But, we, at my old age of 71, having to go back to work, but we have a responsibility. And, there's no police going around. They're not going to the schools to teach the children about the roading. So I'm saying, what's this mean? Stop, look and listen. I'm teaching people who are from other countries that Nana and them come over from India and everywhere. They don't speak English and they want to, Zoom across whatever. There's a lot of stuff. And I'm having to say to the schools or to a teacher, look, we'll have to get the police here, or kids are running off buses, they're running across in front of the buses and behind the buses to get to the other side or get to school. And I thought, heaven help me, it doesn't take much of incidents. Someone gets killed on Shores Road, where Haley goes to school. There's other schools around that I've been at, and you know, we just don't have the police.
Do you want to know my opinion on the police?
Well, yes. Well, I know what. I mean, if you're dying in the middle of the night, you mostly won't get a policeman.
The problem is we don't have a police force anymore.
No.
We have a police community service.
Yes.
So
And you have a Centrelink service, I got told.
Wait, that's-
Centrelink,
yes.
not the old Centrelink.
No,
you
no.
go in and get the help.
No, it's all community services now. Yes. So we don't do proactive policing.
No.
We don't have enough police on the beat to do that. There are police, but they're in little units,
Yeah, and
doing
they
lots
come
of
from
little
the
things.
City, often from the city or the sheriff's running around.
Yep, but we don't have enough on the ground, not just enforcing the law, but proactively.
That's right.
So, I mean, we do a bit of revenue raising. So we'll pull up, you know, speeding or, you know, that's not proactive policing, that's revenue raising. Yeah, we don't have enough police going out and making their presence known because that's not what the police service
If we
is
had a
about
decent
anymore.
police station- Do you know that I've been in that police station upstairs? Not because I was in trouble, but because I was helping people, whatever. And it was leaking. It's a shocking place for any police to work at.
I mean, the other thing with police stations here is people have to wait so long. I have so many people coming to me and saying, we waited for 2 hours and we gave up.
Yeah, that's
You know, we're not even getting our insurance signs formed and things like that. It's not the police on the beat's fault. This is a systemic problem that we need to solve. And the whole law and order problem is not just police, but it's the judiciary, it's the government, it's the legislation, everything. All needs to work together. We need a systemic review. Definitely.
really needs major investigation.
Absolutely.
And not down the track, it needs it now.
And we've got to stop the political correctness in the police force. The amount of money that went into putting rainbows on police t-shirts could have been spent on getting more police on the beat.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
So there's a hand up. Yes, I get a lot of complaints about those. Absolutely. Far too many potholes everywhere. Yes,
Yes,
definitely. And in every place around this area, to be honest. So I was in Little River the other day. They were very surprised to see a politician heading out the Little River train station. It was great. Had a lot of fun. But yeah, there's just terrible road conditions, I agree.
Yeah, the new area down there, you go down that road.
Yes. Well, and the new areas just are simply not being planned well.
No.
So the roads can be very skinny. We're not putting in the parks. We're not putting in the parking. Yeah, we're not planning the West very well. And we've got this brilliant opportunity too because we've got this massive amount of growth here and people wanting to move here. We're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah, Rachel, talking about the train stations and the traffic, why can't the government fix up the racecourse station? The poles are there for the electric trains. There's heaps and heaps of parking out there. Spend a few $1 million, it'll get 100,000 cars off the road. What comes through Werribee at peak time, and also another problem. All these cars would come through Werribee at peak time. Why can't we get a bridge built over either Leach Road or Doherty's Road, so the people from Wyndham Vale can come in to that way, save the traffic coming through Werribee. You know,
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the race course are going.
Yeah, I've been here all my life, 66 years. My father suggested to the Shire of Werribee way back in the early 70s, why don't we build a bridge? This is when it was called Windermere at the time. When, yeah, and it got mixed up with Windermere at Ballarat. So they changed it to Wyndham Vale. But when it was Wyndham Vale, my father he was the plumber for the Shire of Werribee, and he suggested then to put a bridge either over Doherty's Road or Leaks Road, so when this estate, which they call now Wyndham Vale, and he got told that this estate will not proceed any more than what it is. and that was back in 1974.
Wow.
Imagine if there was a bridge over there now, the traffic congestion in Werribee would be nearly all gone. But
Brilliant idea.
yeah, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
Been talking to civil engineers over the last couple of days around their solutions, and they're talking about tunnels and how easy it would be. There's $600 million for this.
Yeah.
There's $200 million per level crossing. So Cherry Street, Werribee, Hoppers Crossing, that's $600 million. We can do all of what you've said and more with that kind of money.
And the thing was, the last election when this Timmy Palace, I suggested that to him then, and well, me being a typical Aussie, yeah, I said to him, I said, Timmy, I says, I know that you don't live in Werribee. You arrive at your office at 11 o'clock, the peak hour traffic is gone, and you are out of your office at 2:30 when the traffic is not even there. And he said to me, he says, I have no problem. I said, well, why don't you stay in your office until 5:30 and try? Peak hour. Peak hour. Yeah. Yeah.
You should be running for Parliament. Very good. Well done.
I don't look like that.
Nor do I at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Thinking about the extreme euthanasia laws we have now in Australia, as well as the extreme abortion laws.
Okay, so the euthanasia laws are state-based, so we've got them here in Victoria, hoping that cancer doesn't spread anywhere else. They're not enacted yet. So because they came in late last year, they've got an 18-month lead-in time. So once elected, I have 6 months to revoke them. So what we need to do is invest, as I said before, in good palliative care and in actually valuing our elderly and our chronically ill, and not just neglecting them and going, well, you're dying anyway, let's just forget you, because we should not be treating any human like that, ever, and that's what we can do. Our extreme abortion laws, we do have the most extreme abortion laws pretty much in the world here in Victoria. We have abortion up to birth, and it is disgusting, absolutely. And most people just find that extremely hard to even understand. I challenged those laws, so in 2015 I brought in legislation to roll it back so that we were not killing viable children here. We don't keep stats, but our understanding is 1 every 10 days we have a viable child being aborted here. When I say viable, we are aborting children for social reasons, not because they're dying or because they have a disability. Or we are aborting children for social reasons. They are completely viable children who would survive if they were outside the womb.
What are you going to say when a woman says, well, it's a health issue and it's my choice?
Yep, I'll get to that. I'm happy to get to that. So what we can do is continue to raise awareness in our community. Because what I found when I raised the laws, people were so shocked. I had a lot of people coming out and saying, I might be pro-choice, but I'm against these laws. And I think we need to take advantage of that. I need a stronger voice. I learnt that in 2015. I didn't have a strong enough voice in the Parliament yet. Coming back into the lower house, I may well be able to have that voice and we'll try again. I consider myself a feminist. Now, a lot of people will go, what? A conservative feminist? But I do consider myself a feminist. In that, abortion hurts women. The amount of women who have come to me and said, I didn't realise the consequences. The post-abortion grief that is rampant here, not just for women but for men as well. I will acknowledge that it's a big issue for men as well. They've lost their child. But the physical effects on women, these are not explained. This is not about women's choice. Choice means you have all of the options presented to you. We do not have all of the options presented to us here in Victoria. I would be happier if we did. I will give you a really personal example. About 10 years ago, I was pregnant. I was in the doctor's office. It was just after, I guess, the abortion laws had gone through, so it might have been 9. And the doctor said to me, I don't know how you got pregnant. This is a miracle child. You will never get pregnant again. You shouldn't be pregnant. They sent me for blood tests and said, if your baby has Down syndrome, no big deal. If your baby has Down syndrome, we'll take care of it for you. That's not a choice. Women are not getting a choice. They're being told that that's what they should do. And that is abhorrent to me. We need volunteers. So we're going to be doing pre-polling. I will be doing pre-polling myself. I never expect anyone to do more than I do. So I try to be the first one in the office and the last one out. Well, I've been in trouble at being single helps. I don't have little kids. So I'll be at pre-poll every single day, but I need people to come and help me. So it's basically just handing out at the pre-poll booth. We've found it's really important. People will vote for you more if people are handing out. It's a very simple formula. We also will be doing door knocking. Really interesting. We trialled some door knocking this week. Really interesting response from people going, we've never heard from a politician in Werribee. No one ever listens to us, and they just love being able to give their opinion, which is fantastic. I've learned so much, including about the level crossings and learning more about specific concerns, which are very much repeated, and we've talked about most of them tonight. I'll also be letterboxing in the weekend before the election. We'll be letterboxing my how to vote cards into every household that we can get to in this area. And on election day, we've got 12 polling booths to cover, and we've got about half of them covered already. All signs, 4-foot signs. If anyone wants one of these in their yard, please.
On your back fence?
On your back fence, anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's not a prominent position. We do have some in prominent positions, thanks to people like Daniel. But just people driving past and seeing these in your front lawns, it's all about facial recognition, so we're looking for people to put signs in their yards as well, if they live in the electorate. If you don't live in the electorate, probably not as helpful.
Social media?
Social media, yes. A lot of people here are already connected to my Facebook and my website, so please interact on that. And yes, we do get a lot of well, you can really tell they're Green supporters. Get on my page and have a bit of, yes, and Reason Party Sex Party have a bit of a problem with me, but anyway, that's okay. I've got a bit of a problem with them. So we do have some rather unpleasant comments. We generally leave them up because it doesn't bother me. It's not just sticks and stones, but people are entitled to their opinion, and their opinions usually aren't very logical anyway. We do only delete them if people get abusive, so, which no one here will be, so I appreciate it. So just keeping in touch would be great. Donations, I'm never very good at asking for money. But if anyone's got a little bit spare to help us print our how to vote cards, that would be good. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. I'm going to mingle for a while now. Please grab some food. We've got heaps and heaps of food there.
More sausages if you need to.
More sausages. I'm going to need to grab one of those. And yeah, please catch up with me one-on-one if you want to have a chat about what you can do to help.
Yes, give it up for Rachel, everyone. I've worked for her for 18 months, and I have never met a politician with more integrity than Rachel. I don't think they exist. It's not saying it because she employs me. You used to pay my money. No, you don't anymore. True. But so just to be really clear, volunteering. We've got some sign-up sheets in there with some blank spots. You'll see if you've already volunteered and you've had a call from one of our amazing team. Your name's probably already up there. But if not, please check your name down there. You can also jump online to volunteer and online to donate as well. So when it comes to things like social media, like, share, comment, please.
Excuse me, I've found...
Great. Any other questions? Rachel will be around for a while. I'll be around as well. Ask those questions, and we'd love to get to know all of you. But Rachel can't do this without you. Okay, it just can't happen without volunteers, without donors, without people who are spreading her message. So let's spread it as far and wide as we can. Okay, great.